Welcome back to my series of James Bond reviews leading up to No Time to Die. We are back on the No Time to Die Bondathon, and we are actually talking about the 25th official James Bond movie, No Time to Die. I cannot believe I actually saw this movie. It is here. Holy shit. World premiere and all.
Chills, you guys. Literally chills.
I witnessed it. After a year and a half of delays, I saw it. Finally. No Time to Die takes place 5 years after the events of Spectre. Bond has retired from active service and Ernst Stavro Blofeld is in prison. While in retirement and living a tranquil life in Jamaica, Bond's friend from the CIA, Felix Leiter, comes to him asking for help to rescue a missing scientist named Valdo Obershev. When it becomes apparent that Obershev is abducted, Bond comes out of retirement and teams up with his MI6 team to take on the likes of the Villain Saffin, played by Rami Malek, an adversary to the likes of which Bond has never seen, who is armed with dangerous new technology. To say that I was excited for No Time to Die is an understatement. You guys know me, I'm a big James Bond fan. I reviewed all 24 Bond films. I even kept some James Bond videos going during the delay process for this movie. So every time this movie was delayed, it was just like, oh, I'm never going to get to see this movie. But all of the trailers really got me hyped up. They were really selling this as being an all-time Bond classic. Whether or not you think it's the best Daniel Craig Bond film is up to you, because Casino Royale is really good, Skyfall is really good. Those are my two favorite Bond films. And as it stands right now, they're joined in company with No Time to Die. These three Daniel Craig films are by far, as of right now, I need to see this movie again, my three favorite Bond films. No Time to Die takes a lot of big risks. And I think that's going to come to bring an indie filmmaker like Cary Joji Fukunaga into a big franchise like this. Look at what Rian Johnson did with Star Wars. Yes, it created years of online discourse, and I do think No Time to Die amongst fans might create that same kind of discourse, especially when it comes to that ending. He's able to craft a story around an idea that has been done to death, and did really what Mission Impossible Fallout did, was that, yeah, sure, we have this generic idea that feels like there's no new spin on it, but they put this entire new spin on it. And there are so many moving parts to the story. It adds layers to not only the characters and the story, actual emotions you're supposed to feel, and the payoff for this movie really, really worked for me. I want to talk about Bond as a character for a minute. This is by far Daniel Craig's best performance as Bond. I loved him in Casino Royale. I loved him in Quantum of Solace. Really liked him in Skyfall, although you could tell he was really starting to get tired with it. And Spectre, I think he's fine. I don't think he's bad like people say he is, but you could tell he felt rejuvenated in this movie. And the way Bond is written and the way Craig portrays him are as if Bond is a wounded animal. The thing that I loved so much about what they did with Bond in this movie is that they really just beat him down to the core. He is psychologically broken. So not only does the actual plot of the movie, which has world-ending stakes, by the way, we finally got a Daniel Craig movie that feels rooted in the classic era of Bond, but also in the modern era. Like, it's kind of an absurd plot when you think about it. It feels like a Roger Moore plot in a Daniel Craig movie, but so many emotions, and the way Bond is written just adds so many layers of depth to this movie that I think that this is actually my favorite portrayal of how Bond is written. The portrayal of Bond just adds to the overall stakes of this movie, which felt very high. It felt very frantic. It felt like it was something that needed to be taken care of now. The previously established characters have a lot to do. The previously established characters have more backstory. There's more backstory with M, and it's just like, something I didn't expect with M in this movie to make me question. I was like, oh, is M gonna, I'm not gonna spoil anything. This is a spoiler-free review. I have to stay restrained, but there's a lot of moving parts to the characters, and going back to Bond for a minute, there's one scene in the middle of the movie where he's talking to somebody, and this is where the movie really showed me how broken and beaten this man is. how desperate he is for answers, how desperate he is to take down this threat that could destroy everything and everyone around him, where he literally almost chokes somebody to death. That is where Bond is emotionally. And love every single part of that. There's some things in here that you expect. Obviously, this follows a lot of the Bond tropes. You have the vodka martini, shaken not stirred line. You have the James Bond line. Some things, obviously, it feels like it's checking off the boxes, but those are actually nitpicks for me. When you can add a fresh spin on the franchise, like Cary Joji Fukunaga has, who crafted a brilliant screenplay with Phoebe Waller-Bridge and Bond screenwriting vets Neil Purvis and Robert Wade. And you can have so many moving parts that it just keeps you engaged throughout the entire film because of how it sets up its tension, its action, its stakes. That's one of the greatest things I could ever ask for. And with how realistic the Craig era of Bond got, it's what we needed. It's not necessarily what we wanted, but it's what we needed. Or Craig's final swan song is Bond. Rami Malek as Saffin. I loved Saffin as a villain. And I've seen a lot of mixed emotions on Rami Malek's performance. It worked for me because let's just face it, Rami Malek, like the way he talks and the way he looks, even without, like, I mean, in the trailers you see he's got like facial scarring and he's wearing that creepy ass mask that just makes Saffin even creepier than he already is. Rami Malek just oozes Bond villain right from his mouth. Like, you look at him and you're like, yeah, that's a Bond villain. But I loved everything they did with Saffin. The movie opens with a scene with Saffin, and it is one of the most haunting, disturbing things I've seen in a Bond movie. There's even a split second where they do a jump scare. They do a jump scare in a Bond movie, so it has a slight horror element to it too. And too, like, just the mask itself makes Rami Malek's Saffin one of the most memorable Bond villains. Just how he is so calm and saying his words, and how he acts like he's like not a villain, but he believes he's a hero who has a god complex. That's the best way to describe him, and I think that that's what we needed from a Bond villain. It felt like a fresh take on a Bond villain, something we have yet to see, and it's totally delivered. Loved everything with Saffin. The only thing is that I just wish he was in like one or two more scenes. Like, this movie's 2 hours and 43 minutes, doesn't feel like it, doesn't waste any time with that runtime either, and I think he's only in about 20 minutes of the movie, I would say. Well, there's quite a bit of time that passes where Saffin is not in the movie, and I was like, get back to Saffin. We don't have a Silva situation on our hand. We don't have a Blofeld situation from Spectre on our hand. Thank God. I was worried that they were falling too much in love with introducing the villains halfway through, or introducing them at one point in the movie and then don't have them in the movie for a while and have them come back within the last third of the movie. So thank God they didn't do that, and surprisingly, the chemistry between Bond and Madeline Swan is even more realized than it was in Spectre. If you had a problem believing that Bond and Madeline Swan were in love in Spectre, this movie is going to make you rethink that in a good way. There's a lot of surprises and twists and turns in their relationship that I'm not going to get into here that I will reveal in a spoiler review, but there was one thing in particular where I saw it, and I said, this better be done right. And it was a risk, a huge risk. And I loved every single second of that. There's also another risk at the end of the movie that they take. And just the way Cary Fukunaga is able to stage these twists and these big risks with all of this payoff, they knew how to do it. I don't know how to describe it. They just knew. They knew that this is the way that this story, this 5-film arc for Daniel Craig was going to end. And it ended with big risks that had massive payoff that felt earned. Knowing how this ends now, looking back at the 5 films, Skyfall is still the one that stands on its own for me. That's obviously the most disconnected from this 5-film story arc, because at the time I don't think they were going to go back to this story, whatever it may be, but looking back, I think this actually improves Casino Royale a lot. It improves Skyfall a lot. It improves Spectre a lot. Quantum of Solace will never ever be improved in my lifetime. I don't think it's ever going to happen. And that's seen a lot of reappraisal from Bond fans. I'm sorry guys, I just can't get on board with Quantum of Solace. But the fact that it actually improves what came before is another major plus for this movie. Now you can look back on perhaps some of the lesser Craig films and think more fondly of them, knowing that this is the end game for Daniel Craig's Bond. And that had to be a challenge for Cary Fukunaga and the writers of this movie, trying to craft a satisfying story that wrapped up and concluded all the storylines in the previous 4 films in a satisfying way and in a way that made sense. And somehow they pulled it off. I want to talk about the cinematography and the action sequences. Linus Sandgren's cinematography might be the crispiest and smoothest cinematography I have seen in a Bond film to date. Not to take anything away from Roger Deakins, who crafted great cinematography with Skyfall, or Hoyt van Hoytema, who crafted great cinematography with Spectre. I'll even throw Phil Lemieux into that mix for Casino Royale as well. Quantum of Solace is just still rotten in a barrel somewhere, because I don't know who edited that movie and who the cinematographer was for that movie, so I have no idea. But when it comes to comparing them, I would say Linus Sandgren made the best looking Bond film. And the action sequences, I don't think there was as much spectacle in them as the trailers would make you believe, but there are standout action sequences here. There's a couple of car chases that I really liked. The final half hour to 45 minutes of the movie, I dug. There's a really long take on a staircase that I thought worked really well, and it was probably the most emotional action scene that the Bond series has had to date. I was literally shaking and gripped to my seat. I felt my knees tense up and my legs get a little weak because I was like, there's big world stakes here that we haven't seen for a long time in a Bond film. And I kind of knew where the movie was going after that, and I was just clutching everything around me because I was like, damn, this is as gritty and brutal as it is going to get. And there were some brutal ass moments here. If you thought the action in Spectre was a bit tepid and really weak, even in Skyfall I've seen that argument being made. I don't think you'll find the action to be as grand as it was in Casino Royale, but I think you'll find more enjoyment in the action scenes in this movie than you did in Spectre or Skyfall, if you didn't like them in Skyfall. I left No Time to Die psychologically broken. That's the best way to describe my state of mind. I was essentially like Bond in this film. This did more than what I thought it was going to do. I knew it was going to be a really good movie. I was a bit skeptical going in because of all the production troubles it had, and apparently the script was being rewritten constantly on set. But having now seen it, this is by far the most satisfying concluding film for a Bond actor that the series has had. And looking back on the Daniel Craig era, people will probably be like, well, it's every other one. But for me, I think it's been mostly a success. I've loved 3 of them, liked one, have mixed emotions / don't really like the other one. I think that overall, this era of Bond is going to be the era of Bond to beat for a while. Daniel Craig cemented his legacy as Bond, and I'm so happy that he got one of the best Bond films ever made as his swan song. I honestly don't think I have a single issue with No Time to Die. If I had one, I would say maybe the sequence in Cuba with Ana de Armas felt a bit rushed to me, but thinking about it now, I might need a rewatch because I feel like that sequence would probably improve upon multiple viewings. So I don't know. I want to give it a letter grade. I want to give it a letter grade now. As of right now, it's a perfect Bond film. It's up there with Skyfall and Casino Royale as a perfect Bond film. This letter grade may change as time goes on. And I'm going to see the movie again when it comes out, and then I'll do a spoiler review. I'm actually going to do 2 spoiler reviews, by the way. I'm going to do a solo standalone spoiler review, and I'm going to have a spoiler discussion with some friends of mine that are also YouTubers that want to talk about this movie. And I want to bring them on because I want other people's thoughts on this, especially when it comes to the ending of the movie. Because I think the ending of the movie is going to be make or break for a lot of people, but as of right now, I'm going to give it a letter grade. And again, it may change. My thoughts on the movie may fluctuate from saying it's a top 3 Bond film to a top 5 Bond film or a top 10 Bond film, or maybe it's not even in the top 10 by the 9th time I see it. But this is upon first viewing. As of seeing it now, I'm going to give No Time to Die an A+. I could not be happier with this movie. I am so happy I finally got to see it. Waited 18 months to see it, and it totally delivered. I was in disbelief that I was actually watching the movie until the until the end credits came on. I was like, I just witnessed a new Bond film, and it was amazing. This is an early review. I had a press screening on the day of the world premiere, so I'm not going to ask what you thought of No Time to Die. I'm just going to ask, or I guess I could, because if you are in the UK, it does come out this week. So if you are in the UK, did you like, love, or dislike No Time to Die? In the US, are you really excited for No Time to Die? And what's your favorite James Bond film? Draw me some feedback in the comments section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.